Good evening. Today I want to talk about using a neti pot. Voila, looks like this. So I think there's quite a few people who think that using a neti pot is like a thing that you do if you're hippie, or this like really yogic thing to do. There's something that us yogis do, and why do we do it? It's not something that just everyone would do. So I have news for you. Using a neti pot is really awesome. I've been using my neti pot regularly since I did my first teacher training, which is all the way back in 2011. And I must admit, the first time I ever used a neti pot, I was like, oh my word, what is this? Like, I've got to put warm, salty water on my nose. How is this going to feel? Is it actually going to come out the other side? Yes, it does. It's fine, unless you're not very well and have a cold, and in which case, yeah, maybe you would want to back off. So what I want to show you is how to use a neti pot. I think the thing that puts a lot of people off is they've got this little Aladdin's lamp kind of teapot kind of thing, and they're not really sure what to do with it, or how to make sure they do it correctly so they don't hurt the inside of their nose. Just as an aside before I show you, I went running today. The nature and countryside looks beautiful. The pollen was hell. I mean, like, seriously, my run was not good because my nose was just streaming to the point where I couldn't breathe through my nose. I was just blowing my nose. I actually had to stop and blow my nose. It was so runny, not fun. And so what I've discovered is if I use my neti pot when I get back from running, it actually really helps, because then obviously all the pollen's kind of sticking on the little hairs in my nose when I get back, and so my nose is still running, my eyes are still streaming. And so if I can use my neti pot to clear that out straight away, it just makes life basically more comfortable. So how to use your neti pot. You need to get yourself some warm, salty water. Make sure you do not use tap water. Make sure that you use kind of filtered water and pure water. You need to heat it up, but you need to make sure it's not too hot when you put it through your nose. So the best way to test it is a little bit like if you were going to test a baby's bottle, you just put a bit of it on the inside of your wrist. And this is a great way to test the water temperature. For your neti pot, you don't want it to be too hot. It will burn your nose. This is not good. Likewise, actually, if it's too cold, it makes using your neti pot quite painful as well for some reason. I'm not sure why. So it needs to be this really nice lukewarm temperature. Dab a little bit of water on the sensitive skin on the inside of your wrist. If that feels good there, then you know you're okay with it. So I have my little neti pot. I broke the handle on it because I've had it since I did my training in Bali, but it's still kind of on the go, so that's good. So first up is to put some water in my neti pot, so I'm just going to do that. So I've got my neti pot full of nice warm water, and the way to do this, I'm going to try it and video it, how well this will work whilst I'm actually doing it, I'm not sure, but essentially you want to put the little spout up one of your nostrils and then tilt your head to one side over the sink, which will make a mess. So tilting the head to one side over the sink, I find it really helps me if I turn my gaze to look down. Don't know why this is the case, but for me, when the water feels like it's not going to move through the nasal passageways, if I look downwards, that seems to help. Just bear in mind, I did mention earlier that if you're not very well, so if you have a cold or you're very congested, or if you've got sinusitis or something like this, you do need to be really careful about using a neti pot. It might not be the best thing for you to do. If you're very, very blocked up and you start putting water up there, it might actually just make it worse. So just check in with yourself for that. So here we go. Let's see if I can video myself actually doing this. So I'm over the sink, got my little neti pot. This is my toilet there. So inserting one side of the neti pot up into one side of the nose. And then from here, turning the head to one side. Gaze looks down. Breathing through the mouth, not through the nose. I think you get the idea. So doing one side, and I would normally put the whole lot of water through in the pot through my through one side. So I do one whole pot through one side of my nose, and then I fill it back up with my warm salty water, and I do the other side. When you have done both sides, you'll obviously feel like you've got loads of water up your nose. What's really important is that you don't really forcefully blow your nose to try and get it all out. So just a gentle kind of blow of the nose just to get the water out. I like to exhale out actually the water when I finish doing my neti. I do this now every evening. At one point I was doing it in the morning and in the evening, which for me ideally was better. I find that if I do it before I go to bed, I can actually sleep better because my nose is clearer. One thing to bear in mind is you don't want to do this and then rush off out to teach or go to work, because you will, if you're doing it first thing in the morning, because you will have the water that obviously needs to kind of leave your nose. You don't want to be like I was, which one time I did it right before I went out to teach, and my students were like, Ross, have you got a cold? And I was like, no, it's just my neti water. So timing is key. Just allow yourself enough time for the water to go out. Likewise, if you're going to bed, do it with enough time before you go to bed that your nose can clear up. So you're not going to do it and then literally get straight into bed. Otherwise, you'll probably still have water up there. So for me, very helpful after I've been running. Helps get the pollen out of my nose. I really like to do it in the evenings before I go to bed. I feel that I can breathe better, and so I sleep better. If I feel like I'm getting a cold, I would do neti more than once a day, just to try and ward off any infection. But just a reminder that if you have got a cold or you are very congested, you do need to be mindful of using your neti and actually making yourself worse. So happy netting. Oh, another point, the salt that you use. Don't use iodized salt or crappy table salt. Not good. You do not want to put that up your nose. I use fresh Cornish sea salt. So this is what I use. I have in the past as well bought the pre-packaged little sachets of nasal wash solution salt. That's basically salt that's already in little sachets kind of divided up for you to use. So you can buy those as well, but just make sure that the salt that you're using is pure salt. It's got no, it hasn't been chemically treated or hasn't got anything else added into it either. So on that note, I'm going to finish doing my neti pot. So happy netting, and if you try it, let me know how you get on. Good night.